Everyone, I am here at Customer Contact Week, Las Vegas 2025. I am in the Quiq booth with Mike Zinne, Chief Experience Officer at Quiq. Mike, it is always good to see you.
Good to see you, Jeff. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, I had to. Obviously, everybody's talking about this term Agentic. There's so much confusion. We've had the opportunity to do some work to hope to start to clarify that, but I want to get some more of your thoughts today.
Awesome. Sounds great. Yeah, I agree with you. There's a lot of people saying Agentic out there. Let's help with that confusion.
Awesome. So the first bit, I think, for me is how do we get beyond this mode of experimenting to actually seeing agentic capability in production? What are some of the things that you see that helps organizations move from experimenting to actually deploying?
Yeah. So the organizations that we're working with are being very thoughtful about, first, what is their customer experience? And how do we determine what those use cases are that's going to make that experience better? And then taking those use cases, identifying those user stories, and then thinking about how AI will help that user experience and user journey, and then starting to build a roadmap of projects that's going to deploy AI to support those users. And if you think about it from that aspect, from how the customer is going to utilize AI and how that's going to make their lives a lot easier, that's when the innovation starts to flow, and you're starting to then use the technology to drive that impact for customers. So it's really starting with that customer experience first versus like, how do I go look at the technology and the underlying infrastructure? All that will be important, but first, how do we impact that customer journey so we're going to drive value for those customers?
I love the fixation on outcome and impact orientation first and foremost, and then go from there.
100%. Yeah. No, it is about driving a good customer experience in the end. And we talk a lot about containment and automation, and that all has value to the customer, and obviously has value to the organization too, but having that value for the customer, driving and focusing on those outcomes and what that value is for the customer is really where we're seeing a lot of the innovation today.
Mike, one of the things that I love about Quiq is that you've had the opportunity to work with some of the world's leading brands. You've seen some struggle and you've seen some be really successful. Talk to me about what separates the organizations that struggle with AI deployments versus those that see success.
Great question. So I think some that struggle are the ones that define sort of a too narrow of a proof of concept or deployment. So ultimately they're deploying an AI that doesn't have a lot of impact for the customer questions that are coming in. And so they'll come back and they say, well, really, this isn't driving the impact that we want. And that's because the agentic agent hasn't been given the ability to solve a lot of the questions and problems for the customer. And again, you don't have to boil the ocean and do everything all at once, but looking for those most impactful, what is the most volume that you're seeing, and what are the use cases that are going to drive the most impact, and starting with those first so you do have a good level of impact. That's where we're seeing a lot of the customers that are driving and getting a lot of value out of AI. And so I encourage folks to really think about and look at, again, what is going to drive that impact for those customers, and building that as some of your first use cases, because again, that's going to be the value to that customer, and they're not going to get frustrated with that experience as they're starting to build out.
One of the things that's talked about this event and probably everywhere else right now is where is technology going to be stepping into the work that people are often doing today, and then what does that leave for humans to do in service delivery and, frankly, every other aspect of work. I'm curious, Mike, as you look at where the industry is now and where we might be going, where do you see the divide happening in the work that will be done by AI and the work that will be done by people?
Yeah, that's a great question and a hotly debated topic. So we really believe in a hybrid approach where agentic AI solutions can do a lot to contain different types of requests, but there is always going to be a need for a human. And being able to integrate and being able to pass that conversation to a human in a very seamless and multi-channel way is something that we're seeing and from the most innovative and most successful customers. And one of the things that we really believe has to be a part of your agentic AI experience. We've been working with customers to, create those agentic AI capabilities, but when that agent can't solve that particular problem, being able to take that payload of information, hand that off to the agent so they can pick up that conversation and go out and execute and solve that problem, and do it in a multi-channel way, whether you're, starting that conversation on a web chat and then, integrating SMS or other messaging tools, and then, maybe pulling those folks in on a phone call. Being able to sort of integrate that conversation with the human is something that we're seeing from the most successful companies. So we really love that hybrid approach. We don't think that's going anywhere. Again, there's going to be some things that agentic AI and a lot of great things that it's going to be able to contain, is going to be able to do on its own, but there's going to be a need for human for some of those more advanced capabilities.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think the devil is always in the details of how do we as organizations make sure that we have the right process and design in place so that when those handoffs that you talked about need to occur, they're done easily, they're done contextually, and it's not creating more friction for anyone involved, right? We don't want to create more friction for our customers, for our employees, and when thoughtfully designed and deployed, that's what is going to happen.
Exactly right. Yeah, no, and we're seeing agents that are excited about this. Like, they're excited to be able to work with the Agentic AI solution and to be able to be more effective when they're working with their customers, and to be able to spend their time on those highly consultative engagements that they need to provide to their customers. So we're seeing a lot of excitement in the hybrid approach.
Something I'm curious to know is when you look at all of the different use cases that are happening with AI, what is one that you would say is massively underrated right now but having incredible impact?
Yeah. The multi-channel support of AI. So being able to take that agentic agent, offer it in chat, messaging, SMS, Apple Business Message, on the phone, integrating those channels together, super impactful for the customer. Creates a low effort experience for that customer. They can come and interact in the way that they want to interact in the most effective tool. Gives you an ability to, while you're on a phone call, maybe I'm going to send an SMS with some information, some pictures, some product offerings, some of those sorts of things. So that's been a truly underrated use case. I think a second underrated use case is the ability to use an agentic AI in a commerce in a commerce environment, being able to understand the products that a customer may be purchasing or has purchased and offer accompaniment to those products. To be able to, provide advanced, capabilities to let the agentic AI, agent be able to select different products for you based on maybe some type of room or a style that you prefer, some of those sorts of things. So those use cases are really cool and innovative, can have a huge impact, but people aren't thinking about them as much as I think you'll see as this technology evolves.
I've got one more question for you.
All right.
We are already entering into the second half of the year. And if there's one piece of advice that you would give to CX leaders as they think about planning for 2026, what would it be?
Hard to believe we're thinking about planning for 2026. Listen, it's really identify your customer journey. Back to what we were talking about at the beginning. Identify your customer journey, know those use cases, know how that customer journey is working for your customers, and be able to embrace agentic AI solutions and be able to augment those customer journeys using those solutions and lean in. The technology and technology changes can be scary. They can involve change management. They can involve a lot of things, and certainly there are some of those things with agentic AI, of course. But it is very, very, very cool. It does have a big impact to your customer experience, and it can be valuable for your organization. So lean in.
I love it. And as you think about getting ready for whatever agentic AI in your contact center is going to look like, Metric, Sherpa, and Quiq work together. We put together an AI readiness guide that I would definitely recommend checking out. We tried to make it very actionable, lots of tools that people can start having conversations on inside of their organization. But Quiq, you're doing amazing things. I encourage people to come, check things out if they were at the show, or go to quiq.com and they can learn more, right?
Of course, yeah. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Mike.